Hey everyone, happy Monday. It
Happy
is
Monday, you guys.
is it the
Thanksgiving
Monday?
week.
I was gonna say, is it the Monday
It
before this?
is.
Black Friday is happening later this week. We're gonna eat a lot of food
Oh,
later
Black
this week.
Friday.
We're gonna
Oh,
be
wow. I'm so
around a
completely
lot of
detached from that.
friends and family this week. It's gonna
Hopefully.
be a good week.
Yeah. Say that. Say that.
So, if this is your first time here on Say That channel, welcome. Our Mondays are a little bit different than some others. For some, it's a mindful Monday. For others, it's a mindset Monday or motivation Monday. For us, it's the Monday rundown. Woo! So,
All right.
these are the days where Winston and I get to talk about all the things we don't normally get to talk about on our Wednesday shows. And we love the topics and the questions that you guys keep bringing us because they're super fascinating. And we look to different thought leaders and content creators to hear what they have to say about the topic. And so we all learn and grow, like last week,
Say that.
together.
Say that. All right.
All
Let's jump
right.
into today's topic.
Are self deceptive lies necessary for survival? Hmm. This is super interesting. I want to say yes. Okay, the reason why I'm thinking this way is, again, current events. I am sometimes made very aware of the things that are happening in Gaza right now. And
Mm,
I know that if I were to know what was going on a minute by minute basis, moment to moment, minute to minute, even hour by hour, or sometimes even day to day, to be honest, it's almost
overwhelming.
yeah, not just overwhelming, paralyzing, because to that, I guess it is so overwhelming, all of the things that are happening, that it becomes paralyzing, and you're like, I feel powerless, this is awful. Of course nobody wants this to, like, how do we stop it, right? Like all of these
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
And you may not even feel like you can, like, what's the point, right? It's like, what's the point? The world's going to crap, we got wars here, genocide over there, right? I mean, we didn't even talk about what's happening in the Sudan, like, and there are people there are the Uyghurs in China who are also, like, there's a bunch of genocide happening all over right now, the planet. And if you were to know about those things all the time, I feel like, yeah, it would put you in a place of paralysis. And so I was listening to
Yes,
somebody
it
who was
does.
talking about how for us it's important to, because then there's sometimes some guilt wrapped in that, right? Like, oh, and now I feel guilty because it
You're not doing
looks like
enough.
I don't care, but the truth is, like, if I did moment by moment, like, I wouldn't live my life also. So there was just this psychologist who came on to say, like, it's not that people don't care, it's not that people are numb, but it's like a natural thing that we do as humans, that you just need to kind of compartmentalize or just not think about it in order to continue on. And then I wonder, what would it, I mean, just by the grace of God, I was not born a Palestinian, right? Like, that's all it is. there's luck and blessings, like, who knows, whatever, but I wasn't born a Palestinian who lives in Gaza. So, like, but what if I was, though? My life would be consumed with that. And yet I think even the people in Gaza, to a certain extent, have to also not think about certain things all the time. Otherwise, then it gets ridiculously hopeless. And what's the point of living if there's, like, if there's no hope, right? No. If you just constantly focus on the truth of the matter of what's happening there. So that's my thought on this.
Okay. um, I'm gonna say yes as well. From without having to, I guess, not necessarily having to reach to like wars. I think we could, in our own lives, find things that if we focus on too much will make continuing or wanting to go on, get out of bed some days.
Mm.
I know at points that has been my experience, and it is about it almost made me think of like when you at some point in my learning about like affirmations, there was just this point of saying things that I didn't necessarily think were true. I didn't feel them as truths, but it was just a part of the process of getting back up and getting going in life. And I think to this whole idea of survival, just it's maybe not as to your point, our lives where we happen to live right now, we aren't day to day. I'm not worrying about my safety in that way. But I definitely know that for some people, their experience, actually, no. Although I'm not worried about my safety, I do know again this idea of just not feeling like continuing or not wanting to go on is easy to fall into that state, depending on what I choose to focus on. So I guess we can call them lies. I've chosen now just to think of them as states of being that we just haven't reached yet. Like you can really like hype. I still talk to myself about playing chess on a yacht. Man, I don't think of it as a lie. I guess to some person, I guess that's what I'm saying. It's weird to word this out, but and what I mean by that is there's a something as a goal we had when we used to do another form of business. We talked about one day owning a yacht and playing chess on it. And I think if I was to tell it to somebody, clearly I don't own the yacht yet, so it could come across as a lie. But I know for many people who have not had certain levels of success in their life, they at one point were lying to themselves, and they have then achieved that same, I guess, lie. So it's just a perception of where in time, I guess, we're asking the question of what I'm talking to myself about.
Hmm.
I hope that came across the way it made sense in my head, because it definitely makes sense in my head. Because I've experienced things that I know, again, at one point it didn't feel like it was a truth, and now I'm living those states and so on and so on. So
That's also true.
but to answer the question, I definitely think it is a part of life. I think you have to do those. Anyone who's wanted to do something amazing has
Hmm.
to tell themselves something that, again, if we were to be asking society, of course it would come across as a lie because they had not yet achieved it. They hadn't, but then at some point it flipped and they did. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's an essential point of life
I
to
love
know
that.
ourselves.
From both directions. In order to survive and also to thrive, there's this
Yeah,
necessity to, I call it, only focus on certain things. And yeah, others may see it like, well, you're just lying to yourself. So
yeah.
I love that framing. That's really good. Well, it's not just us. We are going to go to the content creators that we are huge fans of. You know them. We love them. We're going to go over to School of Life.
Take us to school.
We tend to imagine that in order to live a good life, we need to have an appetite for the truth. But what if, in reality, in order to keep going and get anything done, we actually need to blind ourselves to a range of realities and have to swallow a number of illusions, without which we couldn't possibly have the willpower to continue? So here are some of the blind spots necessary to our flourishing. First and foremost, we need to pretend that we're not going to die, and therefore we have to convince ourselves that all the things we fervently trust are so important and so urgent really do matter and won't look like incomprehensible, futile mulch within a few hundred years or less. We have to care manically about what other people think, though they hardly give us a thought, let alone a fair one. We have to imagine that we could one day be loved and understood, though few things are, in fact, ever more in doubt. We have to stay on our side, though we know in our hearts how beastly and strange we really are. We have to melt at the cuteness of small children, though we know how most of them were going to turn out, and that the world we're teaching them about doesn't really exist. We have to look forward to the next few years with excitement, though almost every new day is actually a scratchy 6 or below. We have to believe that we're collectively making progress, though every invention unleashes a necessary set of appalling, unintended consequences. We have to care about humanity, though most of its members are insufferable from close up. We have to look forward to the future, though if we had a chance to learn what fate had in store, we almost certainly wouldn't want to know. We have to keep being excited about buying new things, though we know how seldom any of them ever really make a difference. We have to keep going travelling, though being somewhere else is always better in memory or anticipation. We have to keep seeing our so-called friends, though we would be crushed by hearing a fraction of what really goes through their minds. We have to believe in the possibility of a comfortable, wise old age, though it will mostly be agony, aches, and catheters. We have to not properly notice how beautiful, interesting, and opportunity-filled life is, in case we were to go mad from excitement and regret. In short, let's not fool ourselves that we really want to know the full truth. We require only so much of it as is compatible with making it out of bed. We have to confront an uncomfortable fact about self-awareness. Those who most know how to enjoy life may also be those who, at points, are masters at fruitfully lying to themselves.
That was really good.
Absolutely.
I sometimes the people who are best at it are the ones who are lying to themselves. I feel like that's the quote of the day right there.
And in a few different areas too. That health one, or you're not gonna die. I've definitely had that thought. I actually had that on my walk this morning.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna die. Yeah. And then it's interesting because then the alternative is like, well, what if I were to die tomorrow? And then like think about all the things that you would do differently. And then you're like, well, why am I not doing those things?
Oh, that's so interesting. Mine goes, if I was to die, I think how good people, that's so interesting. And even in that, we have different ways of looking at that.
This is good. Okay, we want to know all of your thoughts. All of your thoughts. Let us know, because you can tell that Winston and I are in deep introspection right now.
I would say,
both
sorry
consider.
to cut you off. Yeah, no, if for sure. If after listening to what we had to say even earlier, but then just listening to some of the topics and points that they brought out, start, to their point, realities that we can choose to have to take a look at. I know earlier we even talked about this, or maybe we didn't, but just the idea of what people would think of us, because I didn't even talk about why that would be important to you, but it's something we wonder. So this idea of truths, we all want to live this truth, but I think delusion sometimes, or ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, I think that's probably another way to say it. Yeah. Ignorance is
bliss. But yeah, I agree. To Janelle's point, definitely let us know what you guys think in the comments below. This one was a good one.
This was great. And it's free. You can just subscribe, like, share, just let the algorithm know that we are providing you value. It's really, really important to us. And we will see you next week. But until then, remember that you deserve the good life. Say that.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving, guys. Be good.
Gobble, gobble.